So, how did this crazy flat Earth idea get so popular, and when did it start? In fact, it's nothing new. For most of our known history, humans have known the Earth to be a flat, stationary, and enclosed topographical plane. And by topographical plane, I mean that most of the known surface of the Earth is water, which doesn't curve, just as we all observe. Then we obviously have hills, valleys, mountains, etc. All ancient cultures knew the Earth was flat. They all had their own unique depictions of the Earth, and they all had one thing in common. They all depicted a flat, stationary plane within an enclosed system. Most people have a strong misconception of what flat Earth actually means. Most assume flat earthers claim a flat planet floating in space, and this is to be expected due to the fact that we were all raised with the worldview of everything existing within a giant space vacuum, with us situated on a spherical planet covered in water, hurtling through space, through the black void at millions of miles per hour. Usually, when people hear about flat Earth, they simply replace the globe with a flat planet. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Flat is not a shape. And the flat versus globe argument is not a valid comparison. One side's claiming a shape and size, while the other side isn't making a claim of either of those things. So what exactly do we mean by flat Earth? The correct context for what we mean by flat Earth is that there is no measurable curvature over the surface of the Earth, specifically referring to a body of water that isn't curving over distance as would be required if the Earth were a globe. Now, we're not claiming to know the shape of the Earth, nor are we claiming to know the exact size. This is how it goes. If the Earth is a globe with a radius value of 3,959 miles, or 6,371 kilometers, and we're told that over 70% of the known surface area is covered in water, then that water must be curving at a specific rate. Most people I talk to are under the misunderstanding that over small distances such as 10 miles or 20 miles, there wouldn't be a great deal of curvature as the Earth is so large. However, the fact is that over a 20-mile body of water anywhere on the globe, there would have to be around 266 feet of Earth curvature. That's the equivalent of a 26-story high-rise building. As a basic analogy, you can think of yourself standing at the shoreline of a 20-mile lake. On the other side of the lake, 20 miles away from you, stands a 20-story high-rise building. If we live on a globe Earth, we would not be able to see any of that building at all. The entire building would be completely hidden behind the curve of the Earth. All you would be able to see is a horizon at a certain distance. But the building would be completely out of view behind the curve, behind that horizon. So while we might be too small to see the actual water itself curving from ground level, we would absolutely be able to see the byproducts of the curvature, the geometric horizon and the obstruction of distant objects that go beyond it. The definition of horizon is as follows: the line in which the sky and the ground appear to meet. It's that simple. On a globe, however, the horizon is a physical geometric location, which must be at a set distance depending on the height of the observer. If the observer remains in a fixed location at a certain height, the distance to the geometric horizon will not change. This, in my opinion, is the easiest way to test the globe Earth. Due to the claimed size of the globe and the way gravity is claimed to work, all matter should be pulled towards the center of mass, and the water that covers over 70% of the surface is no exception to that. This means that all large bodies of water must be curving at approximately the same rate as we discussed earlier in the video. There can be no body of water anywhere on the globe that doesn't curve at approximately the following rates. Now, let's go over some of the long-distance observations to test for that curvature. Okay, so the first observation I'm going to present was done by a guy named Dr. John Dee. Dr. John Dee originally set out to try to debunk Flat Earth. Now, Dr. John Dee is actually a PhD scientist. He has a PhD specializing in spectrophotometry, so he's basically an expert when it comes to optics, to light. Now what he did was he took a bunch of his laboratory equipment, including laser beams, high-powered cameras, and he set out to try to debunk Flat Earth originally, and reluctantly became a Flat Earther in the process of trying to find that Earth curvature. So here's one of his many observations. In the following observation, Dr. John Dee has set his camera up at the side of the ocean. He has his camera, which is a Nikon P900, set up at 1 meter height, which is 3.5 foot height, at the shoreline of the ocean, above the surface of the water. He's going to be zooming in to a windmill farm. The windmill farm is called Rampion Windmill Farm, and the closest windmill tower that you can see when he zooms in is 8.4 miles away, and each one's a little bit further until we get to the final windmill on the right hand side, which is 11.2 miles away. Now anyone can go onto Google, or you could do the math yourself. I find it easier to use an Earth curvature calculator. You can just type into Google Earth curvature calculator and pick any one you like. Now to go over some of the basic mathematics, if the Earth is a globe with a radius of 3,959 miles, from the 3.5 foot observation height, the physical geometric horizon should be located at 2.3 miles, which is also 3.4 kilometers distance from the shoreline. That's the maximum distance that you should be able to see the water if the Earth is a globe. Each of the windmills should be hidden behind the horizon, and the bottom portion should be missing by a certain amount. This amount ranges between about 30 feet, and to the final windmill on the right hand side, which is 11.2 miles out, there should be 52 feet missing from the bottom. That's basically a 5-story building. What we can clearly see in the observation is that we can see the entirety of the windmills coming down and touching the surface of the water, and on top of that we see absolutely no sign of that geometric horizon. Now, remember that geometric horizon must be there if the Earth's a globe. It must physically be there, and due to the size of the globe and due to the way that gravity is claimed to work, it absolutely must physically be there. Now in this next slide we can see a close-up image of the windmills. What you'll notice is that at the low tide mark, what we can notice in the close-up photograph is that we have a black section at the bottom of the windmill. This is the low tide mark. This is where the salt water has stripped the yellow paint off the bottom of the windmill tower. Dr. John Dee did this observation at low tide specifically so we could see this black paint at the bottom as a clear marker. Another thing to take into account is that we don't see any visible miraging effects. We see a very clear image considering we're zooming in over 11 miles through the thickest part of the atmosphere. Another thing you'll notice when Dr. John zooms in is a boat off in the distance. Now Dr. John was able to track this boat live at the scene using ship tracking radar. The boat that we can see in the image is called the Shetland Trader and is located 12.1 nautical miles off the shore. This is the equivalent of 13.9 statute miles. Now once again, the horizon should still be at 2.3 miles, but the hidden height of the boat should be 28 meters. Now because we were able to track the boat, we were able to determine the size of the boat. The approximate height of the hull above the surface of the water is around 7 to 8 meters. Taking into account that on a globe, the hidden height is actually 28 meters, we shouldn't be able to see any of this boat at all. This observation was repeated on multiple different days, showing very similar results. I'll be leaving a link to all of the observations that I'm presenting in the description of the video. So the conclusion of this observation is that the required Earth curvature that must be present if the Earth's a globe simply isn't there. All we see is flat water and unobstructed windmills. So the second observation I'm going to share was done over the Great Salt Lake in Utah. It's a great place to do observations as we have a very dry climate, and having a dry climate we have amazing visibility. So in this video we have a perfectly calm and clear day, and we have a section over the lake which measures on Google Maps 21 miles in distance. The observation is simply shoreline to shoreline. Now just going over some basic mathematics again, we have a 5-foot observation height, which is 1.5 meters. which means the geometric horizon on a globe would have to be at 2.73 miles from the observer. This should be the maximum distance that we can see the water over the lake. All the water beyond the 2.73 mile mark should be physically hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. Now we have a second person over at the distant shoreline taking some footage, so I'm just going to show you some footage now so you can get a close-up view of what it looks like on the distant shoreline that we're going to be zooming into. Take note of the large shoreline. We have some puddles or streams over the shoreline, and we can see a big giant smokestack in the background. So this observation was performed during the daytime in the late afternoon, and then again at nighttime. So in the first clip here, we're going to show zoom footage, and what we'll clearly notice is that we don't see any sign, once again, of that geometric horizon that must be there if the Earth's a globe. In fact, we don't even see a horizon over the entire 21-mile distance. We can clearly see the shoreline, we can clearly see the entirety of the smokestack. Now let's have a look at some footage from the nighttime zoom. It's even clearer as you can see at nighttime. The lights on the distant shoreline make it very easy to make out what we can and cannot see. Once again, we can see the shoreline, we can see the bank, we can also see the entirety of the smokestack once again, just as we could during the daytime footage. Here are some close-up images of the shoreline and the bank. Now the first image that I'm going to show you is a close-up image for reference, so you can see what it looks like. The second image is from 21 miles away, and what we'll notice is that we don't see any obstruction. Now over a 21-mile distance, the raw drop over distance is 293 foot. That's basically a 29-story sky-rise building. I'll give another simple analogy. You know the Titanic? Yeah, the Titanic that sunk? The Titanic was around 170 feet tall. Let's say, hypothetically, the Titanic was parked next to the camera, and the Titanic was going to sail from where the camera is located over to the distant shoreline 21 miles away. Once the Titanic started to sail off, it would reach the horizon at 2.73 miles. As the boat continued beyond the horizon, the bottom of the boat would have to start disappearing physically behind the curvature of the Earth. By the time the boat got to the other shoreline on the other side 21 miles away, the entirety of the Titanic should be completely hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. Now once again, we can see a close-up of the zoom footage showing that there's no obstruction at all. And just to put some icing on the cake, the guys actually pulled out a laser and did a nighttime laser test all the way across the lake.
Okay, we're filming now because we've seen the laser a couple times. Oh, there it is! Yes! Yes, yes, oh my gosh. Okay.
How do you zoom on this? Can you?
Just with your two fingers, just wide.
Okay, okay.
Try that.
Oh, yeah, we can see it on camera.
Yeah.
There, it's coming from right over there.
Okay, I want you to get my laser to show so that people can see what we see is that laser goes out absolutely straight. So just get it right here and see the beam going out there. You can see there's no bending, there's no curving, it's not going down or anything. It's just straight as an arrow.
Yeah, it's a great shot of that.
You can see it reflecting in the water even.
Once again from 5 foot high, and the laser was received directly into the camera sensor on the distant shoreline of the lake, 21 miles away. The height of the camera detecting the laser beam was also 5 foot above the surface of the lake. Once again, the 293 foot of curvature that must be there was not there. And not only did the laser hit the sensor, in the footage we can actually see the reflection of the laser beam on the surface of the water. Now if you know anything about the law of reflection, you'll know that this is not possible on a surface that should be curving by 293 foot over 21 miles. It would not be physically possible for that reflected light to reach the camera on the other side taking the footage. Now, you might be thinking, DJ, these tests seem to completely debunk the globe. Isn't there some kind of explanation from the experts to explain these observations? Kind of. But not really. Let me explain. Most people will throw out a term, refraction, when seeing these long-distance observations. However, in my extensive experience in talking with globe earthers about this topic, 99% of the time, they've just heard that if you say the word refraction, it's a rebuttal to these amazing observations. This couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, atmospheric refraction is the worst nightmare for the globe earthers. Now, I'm going to cover the topic of refraction in brief in this video, but the topic itself is a very extensive topic which I'll be covering in detail in future videos. In fact, each of the topics I'm covering in this video could be a standalone 4-hour video for each one. Anyway, back to the refraction topic. So what is atmospheric refraction? Let's grab a definition and then quickly go over how it doesn't explain these observations. Not even close. So the basic definition for refraction from the Oxford Dictionary of Weather reads as following. Refraction, the fact or phenomenon of light, radio waves, etc. being deflected in passing obliquely through the interface between one medium and another, or through a medium of varying density. So in this case, we're talking about a medium of varying density, right, which is the air. Assuming a globe Earth, they claim that under standard atmospheric conditions, we can expect a refraction coefficient of 0.13. This is what surveyors use. This is what they call the standard. This would essentially increase the globe's radius by 15%, basically allowing us to see 15% beyond the geometric horizon. Heavy refraction is considered to be 20 to 30% or very slightly higher than that. But once we start getting any heavy refraction, that comes along with heavy distortion. Here are some images showing the destruction caused by heavy refraction. Not only the observations being presented not showing any signs of heavy refraction, the amount of refraction required for these observations to work on a globe would have to be many thousands of percent. Not 15%, not 20%, not 30%, not 50%, not 500%, but thousands of percent. For example, in the Dr. John D video with the windmill observations I covered earlier, it would require 2,400% refraction to have zero hidden height on the base of the windmills. That means the radius of the Earth would have to be 24 times larger. There is absolutely no evidence that this level of refraction is possible with visible light, especially to have that much refraction without any miraging effects or without any destruction visually. I could go into so much more detail about refraction, but I'll save that for a subject-specific video coming up in the near future. We have a huge amount of these long-distance observations. We've done them from heights ranging from 3 inches above the water and various heights all the way up to 9,000 feet mountain peaks, where we can see mountains that should be completely hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. We even have observations from planes at 40,000 feet using infrared cameras where we can see landmarks that should be completely hidden behind the curvature of the Earth by giant amounts. We also have a huge number of high-powered laser tests where we shoot high-powered laser beams over large distances at targets that would be hidden behind huge amounts of Earth curvature. The list goes on of real-world tests, empirical observations. These tests are not necessarily being presented as flat Earth proofs, so to speak. These are testing the globe for the curve that must be there, due to gravity and due to the size of the globe that they tell us. Flat Earth is everybody's objective reality. It's the base axiom, everybody's first-hand experience, and it's the baseline for the reality that we all experience, even if you think the Earth's a globe. If someone wants to claim that our obvious reality is different than we experience as a flat and stationary plane, then the burden of proof is on them. And regardless of that burden, flat earthers have taken it upon themselves to debunk the globe. I'll be covering many of these additional observations in my upcoming videos in high detail, as well as going into the topics covered in this video in much more detail. This video is a basic introduction to the flat earth topic, so please make sure to like and subscribe, as I'll be making a lot more brand new content in the very near future. Now that you've seen these observations, you might be thinking to yourself, sure, you have tests that go against the globe, but there must be even more tests that people have done that prove the globe, right? Well, that's exactly what I thought when I first started researching this topic back in 2017. I thought that there must have been countless people that have measured the Earth over the last 2,000 plus years, right? Let's dig a little more into the history of the globe Earth. What I found as I took a deep dive into this topic is that I wasn't able to find any empirical validation of Earth curvature. What I did find was a lot of calculations based off assumptions, rather than real-world testing for direct validation of Earth's curvature. In fact, the deeper I dug into the history of the globe, the more disappointing it was. Most people think that someone went out and took all of these empirical measurements, observations, and used this empirical evidence to prove without doubt that all the ancient cultures for thousands of years were actually completely wrong about the shape of the Earth. That these measurements and tests would have been logged and repeated countless times, right? But instead, what I found was nothing of the sort. I found that the person first attributed with claiming the Earth to be a globe was actually a man who went by the name of Pythagoras. Yeah, we've all heard about the amazing Pythagoras at school, right? Presented to us as an amazing mathematical man of science and logic. However, the deeper I dug into this topic, the more it shocked me. In fact, it turns out that Pythagoras didn't think the Earth was a globe because of any kind of empirical evidence. But as it turns out, Pythagoras was actually a bit more like a mystic cult leader who practiced bizarre rituals with his followers. The Pythagorean cult worshipped numbers and shapes. They believed that the most divine shape, according to Pythagoras, was the sphere. He reasoned that because the sphere is the perfect shape, therefore the Earth must also be a sphere, as why would the Creator make the Earth anything other than what he considered to be the perfect shape? The ancient Greeks, inheriting Babylonian sky mathematics, applied the Hermetic maxim, as above, so below, which you've probably all heard before. Ancient flat earth cultures such as the ancient Egyptians and Babylonians all describe the sky as an imaginary dome or sphere revolving around a stationary flat earth. The observer was placed at the center of this celestial sphere. These cultures created this imaginary celestial sphere not because the sky is actually a sphere, but as a convenient way to map out the positions and motions of the celestial bodies in the sky. The celestial sphere was used for navigation and much more. Later on, philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle took the symmetry of the celestial sphere and imposed it onto the Earth itself. They reasoned that since the heavens appeared spherical and perfect, therefore the Earth beneath must also be spherical, not because of empirical proof, but to maintain philosophical symmetry between the above and the below.
Hello, my name is Piers Bursill Hall. I'm a historian of mathematics in the mathematics faculty at the University of Cambridge. And today I'm going to talk to you about one of the more controversial issues in very early ancient Greek mathematics, and that is about Pythagoras. Now, you've all been told about Pythagoras. You've learned about Pythagoras' theorem, usually in the textbooks that most school children see. Certainly in my school textbooks, there was a picture of some white-haired guy in a toga, Pythagoras. They were always talking about Pythagoras, the man. They told us various things about Pythagoras and his friends and colleagues in a so-called cult or school of Pythagoras. And I'm going to tell you that most of what you've been told about Pythagoras was wrong. So, first of all, Pythagoras, said to have lived between about 550 BC and 530, 520 BC. We don't have very good dates, and if any book tells you Pythagoras, who was born on April 17th, 562 BC, that's fantasy. We have no idea of his possible birth, date of birth, and we have no idea of when he died. Indeed, the evidence for his actual existence is pretty slim. There could well have been a guy called Pythagoras. Let's give him a first name, Bob Pythagoras, because we don't know. There could have been a guy, Bob Pythagoras, who lived maybe somewhere on one of the Greek islands, possibly Samos, but not necessarily. And maybe Bob Pythagoras founded a school of people who were interested in various things, very little of which had to do with mathematics, and more had to do with a kind of cult Orphic religion, which was popular at the time, or the kind of religious ideas that were popular at the time. Maybe there was a guy, Bob Pythagoras, but not necessarily. The evidence we have really isn't clear that there actually was a person called Pythagoras. There might well have been, but if there was, we really don't know much that's reliable about Bob Pythagoras, or his mother, or his sister, or his kids. We just don't know anything. He's a legendary figure. The ancient Greeks were very good at inventing legendary figures. They liked the idea of some father of an institution, a school, a set of beliefs, of drama, of music, of maths, whatever. So he's very likely to be a legendary figure, and if there was a person called Pythagoras and he lived around 550, 520 BC, fine, but we really don't know very much.
When we do an internet search on who actually measured the curvature of the Earth, we're almost 100% guaranteed to hear the name Eratosthenes, who allegedly lived around 240 BC. And what Eratosthenes is claimed to have done is to have calculated the circumference value of the globe by measuring the shadow angle cast by a stick. Many incorrectly think Eratosthenes was trying to prove if the Earth is flat or if the Earth's a globe. However, this is not correct. Eratosthenes already thought that the Earth was a globe, and he was simply trying to work out the size of it. So what he did was place two sticks 500 miles apart. One stick had no shadow, as the sun was directly overhead, and somehow he was able to take simultaneous measurements 500 miles away, and the second stick cast a shadow of 7.2 degrees. Now what Eratosthenes did was make two assumptions before he did his calculations. He assumed a globe Earth, and he also assumed that the sun is so far away that the light rays come in parallel. He took these assumptions and was able to calculate the radius of the globe to be 40,000 kilometers. So just to give an example of how flawed this method was, Eratosthenes clearly made assumptions within his calculations. Now let's imagine this. Right? Let's say I replicated this test, but I did it inside my house. I have a flat floor, and I have a light on the ceiling in the center of the room. Let's say I put one stick, like Eratosthenes did, underneath the light source. There's no shadow cast. I put another stick on the opposite side of the room, and now all of a sudden we have a shadow on the second stick. Now, if I were to make the same assumptions that Eratosthenes made, I would now assume that I'm standing on a spherical floor and that the light rays coming out of the bulb on my ceiling are coming parallel, just like Eratosthenes assumed. Now, if I applied the same mathematics as Eratosthenes, I'd be able to work out the circumference of my flat floor. So as you can see, the method is completely flawed, no pun intended. So this was essentially the birth of the globe Earth, and like I mentioned, it wasn't through empirical testing, but rather a product of mystic beliefs and philosophical reasoning. But the idea didn't catch on for a long time. In fact, most of the population didn't think the Earth was a globe back then. there wasn't even a model for the globe created until over 1,000 years after Pythagoras. The first globe was created in 1492, and even when Nicholas Copernicus came along in 1543, he reasoned just as Pythagoras did that the Earth must be a globe because the sphere is the most perfect shape. So in regards to the timeline of the globe, it wasn't really widely accepted until around 500 to 600 years ago, when it was pushed by the Roman Catholic Jesuits who went worldwide spreading the heliocentric propaganda country to country. This is how the idea of the globe entered the mainstream. There are reports of flat Earth even being taught in certain schools all the way up to the early 1900s. However, by this stage, the heliocentric model became a social norm.
All right, tell me your name.
Ruth Heath,
Ruth, and how old are you today?
102,
102. So you were born in
1918.
1918. And we were just talking, and I asked you what shape the Earth is, and what did you say? What were you taught in school in elementary
I was
school?
taught in school that the Earth was flat.
And then what do you remember when they changed it to a globe?
Well, when they changed it, I remember when they changed it, but I can't remember the date or anything like that.
And did you believe them?
Yes, I did.
You did. Now,
I was young.
right, and we all were told by people that we trust.
That's right.
Where did you go to school? Elementary school.
I went to Spur Glen School in Hamden, Connecticut.
So how does it make you feel to realize that you were right as a kid?
It makes me feel better.
It does make you feel better, right?
Oh, it makes me feel alive.
Oh my God, that is so true. My whole life, I believe,
Yes.
what I was taught.
That's
and then
right.
when I discovered the flat Earth,
I feel better about it.
because we are the center of creation.
That's right.
We are important.
That's right.
We are here.
We are God's children.
Excellent.
Yes.
I will,
I believe in God. I trust God. And when all the problems that are happening in this world today,
I'll give you some good news. A lot of the problems that they report on the news aren't even real.
that's right. That's right.
They're just keeping us in fear.
Keeping up. That's right. That's right. That's right. I understand that. I understand. They just say what they want people to know. They don't care about the Bible. They don't care about life. They only care about I, me, myself, and I. It's a different world.
So the globe deception that a lot of people say, and I believe, is literally by Satan to hide God and
That's
make
right.
people selfish
That's right.
and self-centered and not care and think that there's no consequences for their actions.
Right. I pray every night before I go to bed. And one night things weren't happening right. And I sat up in bed and I said, God, where are you? I need you right now. And I'm beginning to wonder, where is God?
God's right above us in the clouds. The heavens are right here. That's all that there is. And there's not infinite space. Did you know, wait, let me ask a question, just switching topics a little bit, that we never went to the moon, that was all fake?
Is that right?
That's correct.
I saw that all happening.
Yeah, so did I, and we all believed it, but that was just to reinforce that people to believe they can live on a ball and they could walk on a ball. Nobody's ever been to space because space doesn't exist. There is no space. There's just this world.
Oh, it's such a lie.
It's such a lie, but knowing the lie is like going to a magic
I
show.
woke up.
Yes, That's what we call it. We call it red. This is your moment of waking up. It's when you go to see a magician and you know how the tricks are done, and the magic no longer works on you, and you're free from the illusion. So knowing this is going to free your heart.
Cry.
Yeah, it's okay.
It makes me cry.
Happiness.
Yes.
Tears of joy.
Yes. I know that we were true, and they're hiding us.
Yes, it's good though.
It's good.
It's very good.
Yes.
All right.
I'm awake.
Yes.
I'm awake.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for bearing with me for this much of the video. If you're still watching, I really appreciate it. So the information presented so far has probably left you with a lot more questions, but to cover all of them in a single video would take me a month. In fact, I started writing this video script with it titled Flat Earth in 5 minutes. 7 pages later, I realized I'd only scratched the surface of a few topics. So I'm going to turn this into an ongoing series. It's currently unplanned, but I guess I'll work it out as I go along. Many of the common questions people ask will be covered in the upcoming videos. Topics such as, why would they lie? Or are they actually lying about this? Outer space, boats over the horizon, the history of flat Earth, Coriolis effect, what about airplanes, flat routes, maps, GPS, circumnavigation, Antarctica, 24-hour sun, gravity, and much, much more. I'd also love to hear your opinions in the comments section. It would really mean a lot to me if you could leave a message, leave me any suggestions you might have, and I'll try to work them into my upcoming videos. I'm doing all of this on zero budget, and I want to keep it 100% free and make everything from scratch. I write all my own scripts, I do all my own narration and research, I do all the editing myself, so please bear with me as I learn and improve over time. If you're interested in becoming part of a great community, you're welcome to join me on my Discord server, Pickled Minds. Link will be in the description. I also have a Pickled Minds Facebook group, as well as a Telegram group. I'll also be leaving links to all my alternative social media platforms in the description, such as Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, etc., etc. I also plan on doing live streams on YouTube and TikTok, and they will be broadcast from my Discord server, Pickled Minds. So if you'd like to partake in those, you're more than welcome to join my Pickled Minds server. My goal is to build a close-knit community of like-minded people so we can continue this research together. I'll also be making content on other subjects that interest me, such as hidden history, megalithic research, Little Season eschatology, and much more. So if you'd like more of what you see, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you tap that notifications bell.